Imagine a small human group thousands of years ago. No cities, no written laws, no modern identity labels, just people trying to stay alive together. They hunt in groups, share food around a fire, protect children who cannot survive alone, watch the darkness for predators, and depend on trust more than almost anything else. In that world, attraction seems like it should have one purpose. A man and a woman produce children. Children become the future of the group. So how could same-sex attraction appear in the first place? To answer that, we have to go deeper than modern labels. The word homosexuality is recent, but the human systems behind attraction are ancient. Desire did not begin in cities. Affection did not begin with modern culture. Romantic and sexual attraction did not appear after humans became modern. These things grew out of older biology: the brain, the body, hormones, development before birth, social bonding, and the strange complexity of human relationships. But to understand that, we cannot start with modern labels. We have to start with something older: the way the human body develops, the way the brain forms attraction, the way people become attached to each other, and the way small biological differences can shape a person's inner world before they ever have words for it. Because the beginning of same-sex attraction is not something we can point to like a single event. There was no one day when it suddenly appeared. The story is hidden inside the deeper system that creates human attraction itself. In humans, attraction is not only a path toward reproduction. It is connected to attention, emotion, touch, trust, reward, memory, and social connection. That matters because humans are not solitary animals. A human alone is weak. A human group can survive almost anything. Our ancestors lived in small social worlds where every relationship mattered: who shared food, who protected a child, who warned others of danger, who stayed loyal, who helped after an injury, who stayed nearby when fear spread through the group. In that kind of life, the brain did not evolve only to recognize possible mates. It evolved to build bonds. And once a species has a powerful system for bonding, affection, desire, and attachment, variation can appear inside that system. Some people are mostly attracted to the opposite sex. Some are attracted to both sexes. Some are attracted to the same sex. And some experience attraction in other ways entirely. This variation is not outside human nature. It is part of how human nature became complicated. But how does such variation begin? One part of the answer is biological development. A person's sexual orientation is shaped very early, long before they sit down and choose an identity. Scientists do not treat orientation as a simple conscious decision. Instead, research points toward a mixture of influences, including genetics, prenatal development, hormones, brain development, and non-genetic factors. None of these works alone. Human sexuality is built from many small influences interacting during development. Before birth, the body and brain are developing through chemical signals. Genes are active. Hormones rise and fall. Cells respond with different levels of sensitivity. The brain is forming systems connected with reward, attachment, emotion, and later attraction. A slight difference in one pathway might not decide anything by itself, but many small differences together can affect how attraction forms. That is why scientists have not found one clean source of same-sex attraction. Large genetic studies have found that same-sex sexual behavior is influenced by many genetic variants, each with a small effect, and also by non-genetic factors. So this is not a story where one gene suddenly creates one outcome. It is more like a wide landscape of biological variation. Most people develop one pattern of attraction. Some develop another. And this kind of variation is common in nature. Bodies vary, brains vary, temperaments vary, hormonal sensitivity varies, social behavior varies. Attraction varies too. Now imagine this happening not in modern society, but in an early human group. There would be no modern word for gay, straight, bisexual, or orientation, but there would still be feelings. A person might feel unusually strong attachment to someone of the same sex. They might seek closeness, feel jealousy, prefer touch, form a bond that looked different from ordinary friendship. Maybe the group did not describe it with our words, but the capacity could still exist. The label is modern. The human experience may be ancient. There is also a difference between behavior, attraction, and identity. A behavior is something someone does. Attraction is what someone feels. Identity is how a person understands themselves. Modern people often put these together, but they are not the same thing. That distinction matters for prehistory. Early humans may not have had identity categories like ours, but they still had bodies, emotions, preferences, and relationships. So the ancient question is not whether they used modern words. It is whether the biological capacity for same-sex attraction could exist before those words. And the answer is very likely yes. Another clue comes from the animal world. Same-sex sexual behavior has been observed in many species, including mammals and primates. This does not mean animal behavior is the same as human identity. A penguin, dolphin, or monkey is not living with human language, culture, or self-concept. But animal examples show something important. Same-sex behavior is not outside nature. In some social mammals, researchers have suggested that same-sex sexual behavior may help form bonds, reduce tension, or manage conflict inside groups. A 2023 study in Nature Communications found that same-sex sexual behavior in mammals is not randomly distributed, and it appears especially often in some social groups, including primates. That matters because humans are deeply social primates. Our ancestors did not survive just because individuals reproduced. They survived because groups worked, and in social species, behaviors connected to closeness can become tangled with survival. Touch can calm, affection can bond. Sexual behavior can sometimes have social meaning beyond producing offspring. Again, this does not fully explain the human same-sex attraction. Humans are more complex than a simple animal comparison, but it helps break the mistaken idea that sexuality in nature is only about immediate reproduction. Nature is often messier than that. In early humans, social closeness would have been powerful. Children needed years of care. Mothers needed help. Injured adults needed support. Food had to be shared. Knowledge had to be taught. A group with strong bonds had a better chance than a group full of distrust. So if some individuals formed deep same-sex bonds, those bonds could still exist inside a functioning social group. They could help with cooperation. They could create loyalty. They could connect people emotionally, and they could be part of a person's life even if that person did not reproduce in the expected way. But we should be careful. This does not mean same-sex attraction exists only because it helped the group. It also does not mean every same-sex attracted person in prehistory had some special social role. That would be too neat. The stronger answer is that same-sex attraction likely appeared through ordinary variation in the systems that produce attraction, attachment, and sexual development. Once those systems became complex, they did not produce one identical result in every human being. They produced diversity. This is true for many human traits. Height varies, personality varies, fear varies, aggression varies, empathy varies, fertility varies, desire varies, and attraction varies. The reason this feels mysterious is because we often imagine evolution as if it designs every trait for one obvious purpose. But evolution does not work like an engineer drawing a perfect machine. It works with living systems that are already complicated. It changes old parts. It reuses brain circuits. It produces variation. And not every variation has to be a neat little survival tool with one tidy explanation. Human attraction sits inside a messy system. It is linked to reproduction, but not limited to reproduction. It is linked to pleasure, but not only pleasure. It is linked to bonding, but not only bonding. That is probably why same-sex attraction is so difficult to reduce to one cause. It appears where biology, development, emotion, and social life meet. So if we ask how homosexuality appeared in humans, the answer is not that it suddenly arrived at one moment in history. There was probably no first gay person in the modern sense. There were earlier humans whose attractions, bonds, and desires did not all point in the same direction. Over many generations, human sexuality included variation, because the systems creating sexuality were themselves variable. And as human groups became more social, emotional, and cooperative, attraction became part of a larger world than reproduction alone. A same-sex bond in an early human group might have been understood as closeness, as loyalty, as desire, as affection, as a strange but real attachment. We cannot know exactly what those people called it because they left no written explanation. We do not have a diary from the first person who felt this way. We do not have a cave painting that explains orientation. What we have is biology, anthropology, animal behavior, genetics, and the fact that human beings have always been emotionally complex. Those clues point in the same direction. The ingredients were already there. Human bodies already developed in different ways. Human brains already formed attachments. Human groups already depended on bonds. Human sexuality was already more than a mechanical path to children. So, same-sex attraction did not need to be invented by the modern world. It could emerge naturally from ancient human biology and social life, not as a mistake outside humanity, not as something separate from nature, but as one possible pattern inside the wider human capacity for attraction. And maybe maybe that is the most important part. When people ask how homosexuality appeared, they often imagine it as a strange exception that needs a strange explanation. But the deeper story may be the opposite. Same-sex attraction may be one expression of something very human. The fact that our desires are not simple, our bonds are not simple, our bodies are not identical, and our minds do not all grow in the exact same direction. The word is modern, the biology is old, and the story begins much earlier than most people think. Not in a city, not in a debate, not in a label, but around ancient fires, inside small human groups where survival depended on more than reproduction. It depended on connection, and human connection was never simple.